I was speaking at a church in my home state of Louisiana recently, and I wanted to grab the Southwest flight out of New Orleans. I drove an hour out of Baton Rouge to New Orleans just because I was going to get home faster if I did it that way. Southwest flies direct to Birmingham. I'm going to get home in 35 minutes on that flight. So I'm on this flight, and I sit down. And you know the Southwest deal. Everybody kind of picks their own seat, so I didn't get to pick my partner. My partner kind of picked me, and it happened to be this girl who I'm convinced just left Bourbon Street. She came in just woohoo, she was like anyway. So I kind of was doing the old ignore thing, just kind of just leaning on the window a little bit, and then so she just turns to me as soon as the plane gets in the air. So, what do you do for a living? And when you're a pastor and you get asked that, you got to decide if you're going to lie or not. You really do. So I'm like, well, I'm a pastor. She goes, well, duh, we're all passengers. I'm like, no. A pastor of a church. She goes, and here's her next line. She goes, well, I don't like Christians. So I just decided to play along with her. I said, yeah, me neither. Because I knew the one she had been raised around, and I probably don't. But anyway, I said, yeah, me neither. She goes, well, you have to. You're a pastor. I go, oh, no, man. I grew up in one of the meanest churches in the world. I had to plant my own church to get away from them. I'm telling her this, anyway. So I had her attention, you know what I'm saying? And she goes, well, that's crazy. She goes, well, what kind of church? And I explained to her, and I just started explaining the gospel. I said, man, I grew up in church thinking that my church attendance was going to get me to heaven. I just start, just telling the gospel, telling my story. I was raised in church. I never missed a Sunday in church in my life, like to date. Never. My dad, if you just throw it up, Dad, get a bag. We're going to church. That's the way I was raised. And so anyway, this is my experience, So I'm sitting there and I'm telling her that. I said, I found out that God just loves me. I talk about His grace, and she was holding a drink. She had already gotten a drink, and she goes, what does your God think about this? I said, I don't think He cares anything about that. I think He cares about you, and if He gets you, He'll talk to you about that. Well, I've never heard that before in my life. I said, well, it's in the Bible. And so I explained the gospel to her. She's going on from Birmingham to Nashville. And I said, look, she goes, where can I hear more? This is amazing. I said, look, we have our services live online. And I always start the service by greeting everybody at the other campuses. I said, if you'll watch this Sunday online, I'll look in the camera and greet my campuses, and I'll greet you too. She goes, you won't? I said, oh, yes, I will. And so the next Sunday rolled around. I said, hello, everybody. Welcome to Church of the Highlands, all of our campuses. We're glad you're along for the ride. Hey, I want to give Tanya from Southwest Flight 35 a shout out. Girl, I told you I'd do it. All right, and I did that. I didn't know if she was watching or not, but I changed my whole message to preach the gospel to her that day. I preached a real relationship. I did Matthew 7. Not everyone who says Lord's going to go to heaven, because I never knew you. And so I did this message. So anyway, the next day, I got an email. I've got it with me, everybody. All right, this is Tanya. Dear Passenger Chris. Ha! All right, there you go. All right. She says, it was nice meeting you on Flight 35 this week. I'm currently watching your webcast. Thank you for the shout out. I've thought a lot about what you said on the plane, specifically with making my relationship with God personal. This touched me as I have been struggling with Christians that I found opposite of what I perceive Christians should be. As a result, I've let those experiences push me away, and now I know how ridiculous that is. So simple, yet no one explained it to me that way. Thank you for the personal message today. She figured that out. And explaining to me what a relationship with God is all about. Again, yet so simple, yet I've missed it. Your teachings are relevant, personal, and touching. I think you've got a new online watcher in me for some time. Thanks again, and I'm ready to surrender. Tanya. Isn't that awesome, everybody? I know,